If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. And now, the Sunday address.
Reparations from slavery and black victimization is about to be shoved down our throats for the most ratchet holiday in America. BLM raised millions, but what did they do for black lives? It is outrageous to see people asking for reparations even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrated because they were born in the greatest nation to ever exist. Here's a tip. If you don't like America, kindly get the f*** out.
The great thing about reparations is it's truth serum for a lot of people, especially black people. If there are folks who actually understand the situation that we're in and what's required to change it, then they're not going to be bashful about reparations because it's owed. But truth serum also for these other groups out here, the ones who see exactly what's been done to us and that basically their leg up has been based on us being kept down. Mr. Harvey, aka Your World, is fond of saying the United States was started by thieves, slaves, and opportunists. We can guess what category this racist parasite falls into. Any and everything that she might try to point to as being good about the United States was the sole result of what we did. We did it and no one else. Everything from the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts to all of the social changes that we spent hundreds of years bringing about. This country would be just another banana republic, no different than the one that she fled from if it wasn't for us. So we're the only ones with the right to criticize this country because foundational black Americans are the only ones who made it quote-unquote great. That is, whatever you would point to say is good about America. It certainly wasn't Valentina Gomez. She's Colombian. Her family didn't even refugee here until 2009. And yet when talking about the history of the United States, she uses words like we and our to describe events and actions that neither she nor anyone in her family had anything to do with. But this is the level of deceit, deception, lies, and cognitive dissonance that you have to engage in if you're going to carry the soap for white supremacy and call yourself attacking black people. It's real easy to try to fake the whole, oh, we're not against black people thing as long as there's no money on the table, as long as that there's no chance of resources changing hands on the table. But as soon as that comes into play, then all of a sudden everybody makes it clear where they stand. This brings us to the curious case of Valentina Gomez. This professional clout chaser made a little video attacking reparations, and she reportedly posted it on Juneteenth, no less, which she also attacked. So clearly, like Vivek Ramaswamy, she's dealing out of the same playbook as all of the rest of these attention whores. Now, the whole reason that she did this is because this is part of a never-ending string of attention whoring stunts that this woman has engaged in. We'll go ahead and detail a few of those for you later. But the thing that she really wanted to do is to tell black people, you need to leave America if you don't like the racism and such here, because that's what she was really saying. Oh, if you're saying that black people should be recognized for our unique accomplishments in this country and our contributions here, well, there's something wrong with that. And if you don't like America, you need to leave. No, if you don't like America, you need to change America. That's what needs to happen. But that's what she really wanted to say. She wanted to go ahead and show these white supremacists, see, I'll go ahead and sell the soap for you. You can have this white Latina who gets out here, and she'll do the two-faced thing where she claims to simultaneously be a person of color while at the same time waving the flag for every anti-black white supremacist talking point that there is out there. That's what she's really doing. Auditioning. But her entire reason for this racist agitprop was to get people to look in her direction so that then she could go ahead and spout the garbage she really wanted to say, because the entire audience that she's trying to reach is not a black audience at all, obviously. She's auditioning for white attention. So she started saying that white men built everything in America, white men built the whole country. This woman is Colombian. She's not even a U.S. native. Before she refugeed here, black people had already made this country a superpower. This woman ain't but like 25 years old, so she showed up about 10 years ago or so. This woman has some nerve. She needs to go back to Colombia and stop the drug wars that are happening down there. She needs to clean up those barrio slums, which are some of the worst in the hemisphere. If you were to ask her if she loves Colombia, I'm sure she might say that she does. But then that begs the question, if she loved Colombia so much, why did she leave? You don't leave a place that you love. If you love a place, then you dig in, you do the work of cleaning it up. You know, like black Americans are doing with America. But this woman, she fled. She put on her doggone tennis shoes and she booked out of Colombia first chance she got. And then she's talking about, if you don't love America, leave. Well, clearly she didn't love Colombia because she left it. But then again, that only bothers you if you have character, which she doesn't. And like all of these anti-black people of color, you notice how she never attacks, say, Cinco de Mayo? Isn't that interesting? This Gomez character, she doesn't attack Cinco de Mayo, which, by the way, is not even an American holiday. And neither do people like Ron DeSantis or Vivek Ramaswamy. Cinco de Mayo is a foreign holiday celebrated in Latin America, but there's a number of Hispanics here who observe it too. So why do the Valentina Gomez's never attack Cinco de Mayo as being a made-up holiday? Juneteenth, or Emancipation Day as it's formally known, is a real American holiday. It's based on real historical events that happened here in the United States involving U.S. citizens. It's not a made-up holiday, you know, like Halloween, which by the way is a foreign holiday, or St. Patrick's Day, which came from Ireland. Racist immigrants like this Gomez woman and Candace Owens, they just got to the U.S., so they're jealous about the fact that their folks from where they came from don't have anything inside the superpower, inside of the dominant power of its day that they can point to and say that they did. Meanwhile, you got the former slaves, we make history every freaking day. And it just eats them alive. Gomez, she's eaten alive with jealousy. Candace Owens, she's eaten alive with envy. And Gomez and Owens, both having fled from their home countries, they've now fled to the United States. And what a surprise, they continue their habit of not making any history here either. Instead, they decide that they're going to try to sling mud at the people who do. History is a record of things that have been done. And if you're just hanging back while other people are doing the work, then there will be nothing for you to have recorded having done. Though I did get a chuckle out of her claiming that white men built everything in America like the roads and such. I did an entire video series on reparations in which I detailed how foundational black Americans built everything from the literal Wall Street to the White House to the Capitol building to the railroads. But we already know her asinine remarks weren't meant to be factual. They were merely meant to delight anti-black racists and other assorted trash like herself who can't handle reality, who can't handle history, and can't handle the facts. So they want to ban them. But this goes to show the moral fraud of black Americans talking that allies nonsense. We're the only ones who ever talk like that. Everybody else sticks to a strict anti-black line. Reparations made this idiot's pinhead explode, and it's the perfect issue to determine who's pro-black and who's anti-black. You got a number of folks out here who hate it because it finally levels the playing field. That's the threat of reparations. It threatens the racial pyramid that every other group depends on, and it makes even black immigrants mad because the preference white power gave to some of them would also be threatened. But I will say one other thing about this harpy. Notice how at least she's saying the word reparations, if only to attack it. You can't even get the congressional black talkers, or rather the congressional immigrant talkers, to even do that much. Reparations, they try to pretend like they don't even know anything about it. This woman's actually saying the word during a political campaign. It also goes to validate that these anti-black racists, they are fully aware of what we've been doing online and offline. They hear about reparations, they know about it, and they're scared of it. See, while everybody else is sitting here, you got these shills and you got these plants and these agents and these suck-ups and bootlegs trying to say, oh man, reparations, they ain't worried about that, man. They ain't never gonna happen. These anti-black racists, they certainly seem to be concerned about it. They certainly seem to feel as if there's being progress made on that issue. Listen to what she says. It's about to be shoved down our throats. She's not sitting here going, oh, we don't want this to ever happen. She's going, oh my God, this is imminent. It's more than just the usual fear-mongering. As far as they're concerned, white supremacy believes in looking at the horizon to see what could possibly happen to threaten their power because it's so fragile. And they see what the world we're doing, what we're advocating for, and they're worried about it. The enemy knows what's up. The question is, do you? Because it tells me everything I need to know that you got these anti-black racists. They'll go ahead and say the word reparations, if only to attack it. But the people who were told by these agents and shills and these plants, oh, you gotta be voting for, you can't just be sitting home, let the Republicans win. Well, if I vote for the Democrats, are they willing to say reparations at all? Sure, they'll say reparations. And they'll also say it ain't feasible. Or reparations, why? Nah, that ain't something for me to vote for. Valentina Gomez is just another example of why there's no racism other than anti-black racism. Even the other groups who are not necessarily classified as white have shown that they can and do make common cause with white supremacy where attacking black people is concerned. White supremacy has created a racial pecking order based on skin color, and even those who are beneath those classified as white will still reinforce white supremacy so long as the system continues to keep them artificially elevated above black people. This is how white power incentivizes others to uphold and protect the supreme advantages that white privilege confers, even though these other groups are not classified as white and will never get to enjoy those privileges. This woman is attention whoring for fun and profit, though in her case there hasn't been much profit in it. Previously, she had been trying to jump on the whole culture war train and attack anything with LGBT attached to it. And while that got her some cheap thrills, it didn't get her the real political traction that she wanted. She's allegedly running to be Secretary of State for Missouri, but hers is a novelty candidacy. She's not taken seriously, even by the inbred reprobates in Missouri, but she's no doubt hoping to get herself on TV, get a few guest spots on Fox News, and raise her personal profile somehow. This is not to say that this skank isn't a genuine racist. She undoubtedly is. But what she isn't is a serious political candidate. She's just an anti-black clout chaser. So she's trying to do something she hopes will be noisy, that she's hoped will get trending on Twitter, and finally put her on the map and force people to give her the attention that she craves. She's hoping that by saying blatantly racist stuff on Juneteenth, this is going to get her access to the same racist financiers who fund the Christopher Rufos, the Ed Blums, and the Ron DeSantises out there. Anti-black racism is a very lucrative grift because this country has spent half a millennium stealing the wealth that black people have generated and then misappropriating it to give tangible benefits to those not classified as black. So there's plenty of dumb money out there to put into the hands of clowns who are willing to attack black people. The white right in particular has created a cottage industry out of it. Now, this Gomez woman has made videos of herself burning books, and she says that if she gets elected Secretary of State, she's going to defund any libraries that carry critical race theory material. This isn't a political campaign she's running, it's a self-promotional campaign, and at this point it's only about half a step away from a cry for help. Donald Trump showed that if someone is shameless enough and willing to get on social media and make a total fool of themselves, there's plenty of racist rubes and low IQ voters who will give them money or at the very least a couple of retweets. It's a nice con if you can get enough attention to make it profitable. Now, this woman is an immigrant who predictably comes from a well-to-do white family in Colombia, which is one of the most racist and corrupt places in all of Latin America. Somebody comes from there and has money, you can bet they didn't get it honestly. Argentina made it a point to try to brand itself as the only white nation in all of Latin America, but Colombia has been closely behind them, vying for that sordid little crown. This woman clearly operates from the same playbook as Vivek Ramaswamy, who also attacked Juneteenth. That guy needs to stick to his pump and dump financial schemes and stay away from discussing things that he's not qualified to talk about. See, these people of color come from different countries, and yet they already know the rules of racism. Just like the Irish did in the 19th century, just like the Italians, Greeks, Asians, and Hispanics did in the 20th. Every immigrant group knows that the fastest way to ingratiate themselves with the dominant society is to demonstrate their allegiance to the racial pecking order. And that means they have to publicly, egregiously attack black people. That's the price of admission. And we know they're all aware of it because they all do the exact same thing. White Latina immigrants like Gomez never make it a point to attack Asians. Asians like Vivek Ramaswamy never make it a point to attack Hispanics either. But they all make it a point to attack black people. This is what we're talking about whenever we say that the reason you got so many people, especially on the white left, who are so hot and bothered about immigration, and we got the white right who would say, we'll go ahead and let certain of them stay, is because they look at individuals and the cultures they come from. When you look at cultures like the one that this Gomez woman comes from in Colombia, that's an anti-black culture. Vivek Ramaswamy, you look at India and you see the whole Brahmin thing, that's an anti-black culture. And that's the reason why you got all of these politicians and power brokers over here who say, go ahead and throw open the gates for these guys. Yeah, you come from an anti-black culture and you bring that over here. Oh, that's exactly what they're looking for. And tragically, when it comes to immigrants, you even have a lot of black ones who do the same thing. This racist Gomez, she was merely echoing what Tethers like Candace Owens have already said. Owens was ready to jump out a window to be the first one to attack Juneteenth last year. But now that her white benefactors have thrown her overboard, she hasn't been quite so gung-ho to keep beating that particular drum. Gee, I wonder why. But she has shown why the white media on both the left and the right love to elevate these Tethers like herself and that Emmanuel Acho clown. It's because they're the ones who break the ice for every anti-black line of rhetoric and talking point that the white racists intend to use later. White power uses these Tethers to be the first ones to say all sorts of anti-black stuff, like Obama did when he came out attacking wokeness long before everyone else. And then all these white racists follow right behind them and point to the Tethers and say, why, I can't be racist, buddy. That Tether over there that we pay to say stupid stuff, she said Juneteenth is ghetto and made up, so since this bought and paid for sellout said it, that means it's not racist when I say it, buddy. Now, by the way, you got the Tethers and these other assorted bootlicks from abroad. They get angry whenever someone mentions how they fled. Now, aren't you going to stick up for this racist white Latina immigrant then? Aren't you going to defend her on the same grounds that you try to defend people like Candace Owens and Emmanuel Acho? And where are our brown allies at to call out this woman's racist tirade? I keep hearing the roly-polies and the Joy Reids and others telling us about this fabled black-brown alliance. Except we keep seeing people like this getting on television, getting on social media, attacking black people, attacking anything having to do with us. And they go out of their way to do the most over-the-top attacks against black people, basically everything short of you should be able to kill black people in the streets. And we look around and wonder, where the world is the brown community at to call this out? We have these same people who tell us that they're not aligned with white supremacy. They identify as white on driver's licenses and on job applications, on census forms, school applications, you name it. I'd like to know where the Afro-Latinos are at times like this to call out people like this Valentina what's-her-name. Because whenever people like her get out here and say some vile stuff, the Afro-Latinos are also nowhere to be seen. And I mention that because these are the exact same people who will, once every blue moon, whisper that there's some racism in Latin culture. But whenever it comes time to step forward and point this stuff out, especially on a regular basis, especially at high-profile moments like this, they disappear. Now, how is that any different than the other Latin ethnic groups who also don't call this stuff out? Remember this whenever in the future you see someone who posts a comment saying that they're an Afro-Latino and that they admit that there's racism in Latin culture. If you only do that mess once every blue moon, you ain't calling it out. It's cowardly to do that. And this is why Latin America is 80 years behind the rest of the world in terms of rights for black citizens. The problem isn't that Afro-Latinos don't know they're oppressed. It's that they don't dare say a word about it. The white supremacists in Latin America, they don't have the Afro-Latinos outnumbered as much as they have them completely and thoroughly intimidated. And that's what gives walking trash like this Gomez woman the nerve to think that she can act like this in the U.S. Because back in her home country, she and her family have done the same kind of things. In fact, probably worse. They do it openly. And the Afro-Latinos don't say boo about it. Now, keep in mind, last year you had the scandal in the LA City Council where at least 3 Hispanic city council members as well as a Hispanic labor representative got together calling black people monkeys and talking about how black people need to be frozen out of the city's business dealings. You would have thought that it was white racists in the Jim Crow South doing it, but it was brown Hispanics in California doing it. And there was a political cost that went along with it. But that cost wasn't leveraged by Afro-Latinos. We got to be honest about that. They weren't going on a crusade about that one. You had the usual 1 or 2 blink and you'll miss it so-called think pieces. You know, the usual tiny editorial here or there, but that was it. None of them are actually trying to rock the boat on this one because they consider themselves to be in the same boat with people like Gomez and people like the racists on the LA City Council. So those racist city council members, by the way, are Mexican Americans. And now you got this woman from Colombia doing the same thing. So all the anti-black racism isn't just coming from Mexico or just from Cubans or just from Colombia. It's the culture of all of Latin America. And not calling this stuff out is not some victimless crime. Courage is potentially contagious. It's not easy to catch. It's very difficult to contract that one. But when people see somebody who has the nerve to stand up and has a spine, other people who had previously been sitting back waiting to see if anybody would cross the line, a few of them just might start to stand up and say the obvious too. But the opposite is also true. Cowardice is also contagious, and it is absolutely rampant. It's airborne. You can catch it by shaking hands with the wrong person or standing in the same room as a coward. And if you're a person of principle and character, you don't want to catch that disease. Reparations is serious business, and it's not for the faint of heart or for those who are worried about how it might make things awkward between themselves and other people. Nobody ever worries about how awkward it is when everybody else has helped to leapfrog over us. They all turn around after getting all of this help and assistance, and they tell us nobody's holding us back. And they tell us, why, nobody ever did anything for us. You Negroes just aren't trying, that's all. Well, it's time to put the shoe on the other foot. This little creep Gomez is just the latest anti-black racist looking for attention, and she's not too worried about the consequences because she thinks that right now she can't be touched economically. But this isn't Latin America. And we're not like those black folks that you find in those other countries. We don't suffer fools gladly, nor do we tolerate disrespect. We were the ones who made it possible for people like Gomez to even be able to get in this country, and for her to have any sort of economic opportunity. She wouldn't be able to vote, much less run for office, if it hadn't been for us. And now she's calling herself biting the hand that feeds her. Well, she's going to find out the hard way that the same hand that fed her can also slap her in the face, too. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Codified Trucking, Patrick Weston, Ikegas Dorset, Argentria Harden, and Fahim Carter. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.